Okay, Mark, are we ready? We're ready. Well, good evening and welcome to the Nampa City Council meeting on this Tuesday. We appreciate all of you that are here in the audience and those that are online. So we do have a wonderful tradition here, and that is that we open in prayer. And Chief of Staff Rick Hogeboom is going to pray for us this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Good to have you in the audience. Please stand. Before I pray, I want to read a scripture from Colossians 1:15. The Apostle Paul says, "He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created through him and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things consist." Paul states this radical truth that everything is held together by the Creator, and he's speaking of Jesus. One thing I appreciate in art that I see lost in modern art is Soli Deo Gloria. A lot of artists would sign that, "To God alone be the glory," because they acknowledge everything we do ultimately is enabled by him, and it's ultimately judged by him, and it should all tend to his glory. So let us pray together. Lord, we thank you for this night, and we entrust the deliberation of this elected body to your care. Please grant wisdom and insight. Give them strength, fortitude, courage to do what is right, to make decisions that ultimately glorify you. Help them to be mindful of the citizens who have gathered. May they hear their requests with compassion and to take into careful consideration how this city can best serve the people who make up this great city. And all these things we ask and pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's do the pledge together, if you'll join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rick. Roll call.
Rodriguez. Bruner.
Here.
Pingula.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Haberfield.
Here.
Bauer. All present.
We do have a couple of proposed amendments to the agenda. The first one is under section 1.6. We are going to move items A and D to section 2. And section 2 is a new section on our agenda. Rather than moving them to new business, when we pull something off the consent agenda, it goes to this section 2, which is items moved from consent agenda. That way, if there are any questions about them, we have an opportunity to discuss them. So I am aware that we'd like a little explanation on those two items. Are there any other suggested changes or amendments to the agenda? Yes, Councilman Rodriguez.
Yes, Mayor, I'm concerned with the advertisement, it'd be 1C, authorized advertisement Monday, February 6th, 2023, public hearing to present recommended fiscal year 23 increase to irrigation water hookup fees effectively 2023. I believe there's an issue with a subdivision that has a zone issue
Yes.
here in the city of Nampa, and I would like to have postponed this or include it in the process so it gives Public Works and gives the Board of Appraisers time to discuss and look into it, and then go back to maybe the authorization for publication or advertisements. But I'm just throwing that out to you.
Why don't we move this to section 2 so that we can discuss it?
Okay, Mayor.
How about that?
That's fine.
We'll move this one to section 2, and then we can provide discussion on it. So in addition to 1.6A and D, we will move 1.4C to
Thank you,
section
Mayor.
2. You're welcome. Okay. The only other thing that may happen is that I think we have a lot of public comment this evening, and so I may move our staff reports around because our public hearings start at 6, so we'll see how our time ends up. But anyway, with that, if there are no other proposed amendments to the agenda, I would stand for a motion to approve our consent agenda and the proposed amendments as stated.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Abstain.
Bauer. Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Section 2, and so we're going to start with, we'll just go in the order of the agenda. So 1(4)(c), which is to authorize the advertisement of Monday, February 6th, public hearing to present the recommended fiscal year 2023 increase to irrigation water hookup fees effective March 1. Tom, I'm going to let Tom speak to this. Thank you, Tom. I wasn't finding you real quickly, because he can speak to the difference between this public hearing and the item that you're mentioning, because there is a little difference.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Mayor, City Councilor, Councilor Rodriguez. So the reason these rate increases are coming forward at this particular time is because of the way Idaho code is structured. We have a deadline of the end of, I think it's mid-February, if I remember right, that we have to have our irrigation rates determined. So that applies to all irrigation districts and any city that has irrigation. So postponing it would probably result in us not being able to do a rate increase for this fiscal year. So the particular issue that you're referring to has to do with a zoning of a particular subdivision, and we are aware of that, and we've been talking with the Board of Appraisers on how to address that, but it's somewhat of a separate issue than the rate increase.
Okay, Mayor, if I could.
Yes.
Just for clarification, though, the Board of Appraisers aren't going to meet until March, and we're going to be discussing this in February. So,
We actually
So-
already met and discussed it.
oh, really?
This was, yes, go ahead,
Oh.
Tom.
So, Mayor and Council Rodriguez, so also on this Thursday morning's special council workshop, we will be going over the slide decks that, from the Board of Appraisers and what they recommended. So you'll have that time to look at it as well.
Okay, that's my concern as to whether we're going to impact that subdivision with another increase. And I would have liked to have a study done to make sure that that can be resolved before the 23 rates are approved. So I understand your dilemma, so I'll accept that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So with that, I would stand for a motion on this particular item. Whether it be a motion for approval, we did pull it off consent agenda, so these are action items once they move into Section 2.
So move. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 16A was an authorization for the finance director to sign a contract with Hyde Bailey for audit services in the amount of $62,750. I think Doug can explain the question that came up.
Sure. Every year, we have a annual contract for Hyde Bailey to provide audit services. It's essentially the same contract. This year, as last year, there were some references to, and legal can jump on this if they need to, references of where resolutions might be resolved, which state laws applied. At one point in time, we had this corrected, and I thought it still was corrected, but the old verbiage crept back in. I worked with the audit firm over the weekend to update the language, and they sent me a new contract late last night with all of the references to foreign, or not foreign, but out-of-state jurisdictions have been resolved. There were a couple of other issues that legal and I can work on for the next contract that we weren't as significant, but still probably need to be addressed. But the audit right now is ongoing. They're about halfway into their audit work. So with respect to the length of term, with Hyde Bailey has been auditing us for about 7-8 years. We have yet to have any problems or conflicts that have needed more than just conversations to resolve. So we think we have a good working relationship with them. We've adjusted the contract for the critical items as per legal. And if Todd wants to add any more, I'm turn it over to him.
Thank you, Doug.
Madam Mayor, Doug covered it pretty well. There was just a general reference as to which law applied, and then there was also a reference to the Idaho Public Records Law, and then as permitted by law in the limited liability or indemnification section. And sounds like we got those corrected. Eide Bailey has a standard form, and assuming the best, it probably just got shipped off instead of the one that we adjusted before.
Right, so the corrections have been made?
That's my understanding.
Yes, okay. With that, is there any further discussion, and what is the will of the council?
Sorry. I'll make the motion to authorize the finance director to sign the contract with Eide Bailey as presented in this packet.
Second?
Actually, it is the corrected version. Would that be the correct motion, that the corrected version? Not the one in the packet, but the one that was corrected?
Okay, if that's what it needs to say, yes.
Yes. Is the second still stand? Thank you. Okay, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Bauer. Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
160 is just it was a wording change, and the actual motion on the agenda should have read, authorize the Family Justice Center Director to sign the extension and approval to spend the National Children's Alliance Corps Direct Services Grant Award, which is an extension to the current grant. None of the other information changed. The difference was the language forgot the section that says to sign before you spend. And so we've added that language, and so that was the only change.
So move as added.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer. Haverfield.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So we do have a number of people signed up. The next item on the agenda is the public forum. And we do try to limit this to 5 people on non-agenda items and 5 people on agenda items. I believe we do have a number of people signed up this evening. And so we will go with, we'll go through this list. For those that are here, we are limited to 3 minutes, so you might just watch your screen there. And just for council, we don't provide comments back and recommendations from the bench during the public hearing. This is our time to listen. I will say I think one of the issues that's coming forward, I think Tom points in his staff report, we'll be able to provide some information in his staff report. I want to stay true to our standard of how we use the public hearing. So we'll do that this evening. Unfortunately, because we did move our public hearings up to 6, we're not going to get to hear staff reports until after the public hearings tonight. So our first person.
Madam Mayor, our first person is Greg Wiles. He would like to speak on a non-agenda item regarding school.
Thank you. And Greg, even though we said your name, just for everybody else to come, just go ahead and come forward with your name and your address.
My name is Greg Wiles, live at 1812 West Rock Creek Court, Nampa, Idaho.
Good evening.
Well, if you don't mind, Clerk, can I give these packets to you for the council? Well, Mayor Kling, thank you, and council members, thank you for listening to me today. I'm here on behalf of Nampa Christian Schools to request a school zone and to reduce the speed on Flamingo and Midway. In 2019, 2020, we had 341 students on our campus. Now in 2022, we have 493. So because of our increase in enrollment over 30% in 2021 and 22, we've just seen the uptick in the amount of traffic going and the speed. And it's amazing, even the fog that we had the last few days, we noticed a great deal of speed going on there. So on this packet here, we also have the number of student drivers from 84 to 119, family drop-offs from 129 to 187, number of vehicles from 213 to 306, which is up 29% from our previous years. Also in this packet, you'll just see a map as far as our drop-off and how our parents exit onto Midway. And then the back, you'll see that we've provided a petition that we have 392 parents that have signed this petition. So again, we would love to see a school zone that would slow down our traffic. Right now, we don't have subdivisions that are close to where they are walking to school. And part of the documentation that I did not provide just down the street north of our campus has been hundreds of apartments that have been added from on the corner of Karcher and on Midway. So I know studies have been done, and Chief Huff brought out the nice flashing light to give us some data points, and we worked with the city as well as having our data points from a year ago. So in comparison, we know there's an uptick definitely in the amount of traffic, and also just the speed that people are coming through that area for us. So appreciate your consideration on this. We do have a lot of families that we do not want to give up one in order to get this done. So we appreciate your time to look over the data, look at our petition and what the parents are saying and the dangers of dropping off their kids at Nampa Christian School on Flamingo.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I really appreciate you coming, and thank you for the handout. If you have an extra one, it would be helpful for Tom Points to have one too.
Okay.
Or maybe we could share ours with Tom so he could read it to
Okay.
have an idea. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I don't know if you want the hands raised of all the Nampa Christian families here, but
Yes,
there's
and I
quite a
think we
few
have
of
some
them.
more. Yes, go ahead and raise your
If you're from
hands.
Nampa Christian. So,
That's great. Thank you guys for
All
being
right.
here tonight.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Jim Eisentrager, and he is speaking on a non-agenda item regarding school.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Mayor and the council members. My name is Jim Eisentrager, and I'm the high school principal at Nampa Christian Schools, where I have served there for the last 9 years, and I love my job. My wife and I are not able to have kids, but I've got the best thing because I got 260 of them at the high school that I love dearly and want to see protected by our city. If I searched the local universities for a degree in parking lot management, I have not yet been able to find one, but I would tell you that by now I have earned a doctorate in parking lot management, direction of flow and traffic, trying to help people move in and out, pick up and move efficiently. And in that time, I've become quite what I would say an expert on trying to move things around and trying to move people efficiently. Unfortunately, also in that time, I have become an expert at the sound of screeching tires and the impending accident. As I greet students in the morning, and then I manage traffic myself each day after school, I have witnessed personally numerous incidents and traffic accidents at the school, and it is not fun to have to sprint across the road and pull people out of cars, ask if they're okay, call 911, which I've had to do on numerous occasions, recently just as late as last week. With me in the audience is one of my students who just last year was in a wreck trying to exit our campus and was unable to see a car traveling too fast coming down the road. And she was severely injured and required some hospitalization for that as well. And so I'm just in here to speak in support of this school zone speed limit that we're putting there. This is something we desperately need. It's hard, from my point of view, to watch a new school on Orchard, less than a mile away, be built and have that school zone put up, and for us to not have this, what we've been asking for several years. And so I appreciate your attention to this matter. I appreciate your attention to our school. And most of all, I appreciate your attention to our students. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Mayor, our next speaker is Beth Kinsler. She is speaking on a non-agenda item regarding school.
Hello, my name is Beth Kinsler, and I live at 3260 Ginger Lane here in Nampa. Those gentlemen are way more used to speaking, so I have mine written so I don't mess up. Tonight I come before you to request that you install a school zone in front of Nampa Christian High School. I have chosen to allow my story to be a catalyst for change. Last week my girls and I were running later than we would like to drop off at school. That morning was foggy, and after feeding the horses, we decided to drive a bit cautious to school. We have so many conversations about how to be alert, what to watch for, how fog can build up on your windshield and reduce visibility further, what road conditions might be like, and what route to take to school when conditions change. I know I have a driver coming soon. We made it safely to school. Better yet, there was no fighting, and I even got a I love you from both my middle school girls before walking into school. My mind turned to what direction I needed to go next. As I navigated the parking lot traffic, I realized that I was in the left turn lane instead of the right. I decided to go around the block on Flamingo and still make my errands as I needed to run. In the dark of the early morning, I looked left where I had through traffic traveling 45 miles an hour, cars turning northbound on Midway from Flamingo, southbound Midway cars waiting to turn east on Flamingo, and a line getting longer and backing up. My brain knew I had to cross 2 lanes of traffic quickly and then prepare to stop quickly in the growing line of left turn traffic. I looked to the right. I saw headlights coming from the north by the stoplight and knew that I had a window to jump out there, sometimes feeling a bit like Frogger. I proceeded out onto the road. In a split second, I heard a crunch. I felt a bit of a bump that almost felt like a hip check in basketball. What I watched next was horrible. It was a car that hit me. I never saw it, not at all. I didn't swerve, I didn't flinch. What I did see was the car that hit me proceed to roll 3 complete times as I watched. Did I kill someone? Was there a baby in the car? Was it one of my daughter's friends? Was it one of my athletes, like Eden that's here? What should I do next? How did I not see the car? My head was on a swivel. I looked in every direction 1,000,000 times, I felt. I still can see the headlights coming from the north. How did I not see this one? Everyone keeps telling me it was an accident, and they happen. The flashbacks are terrible. Praise God, everyone involved was okay. As I talked with my daughters about coming tonight, I told them that everyone makes mistakes and that was truly a terrible mistake. I told them the reason I would like you to consider a school zone during drop-off and pickup is that it would simply allow those mistakes to have a few more fractions of a second to be corrected before something worse happens. A totaled car can be replaced, and I'm so thankful that was all that was lost in this incident. Chip and I choose to live in Nampa because of the community that it is, and I truly love it. We choose to go to Nampa Christian for the community that it provides. Tonight, I pray that you will hear our hearts behind these words that truly want to protect both communities. Please act quickly in this matter before another life is forever affected by a mistake that, if given a fraction of a second longer, could have possibly have been corrected. Please consider slowing the speed in front of the school during the time of most busy traffic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much for taking time to share that. Yes.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Chris Ocker. He is speaking on a non-agenda item.
I'm Chris Ocker. I live at 4655 Stam Lane. I'm just here to talk about something that I don't think about a whole lot, and it's sharps disposal. If you don't know what sharps are, it's just like needles and anything sharp, really. There really isn't a place in Nampa for the public, at least that I know, that I could Google, where we can dump this stuff off. And I hear from family and friends who work for the Parks Department that they had some close calls with some needles and trash cans, and this is potentially something life-changing. So if we could get some sharps disposal at least our large parks, I would appreciate that. That's it.
I'm sorry. You know what? And then Darren, you're here. Okay. I'm just looking to you. Could you guys connect on this? I would appreciate it. Thank you so much. Chris, thank you for taking time. Really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Okay, so let's talk. The next 2 items are the same address.
Madam Mayor, we have 2 individuals signed up to speak on the same issue from the same address. It's Brenda Dunstan and Eden Dunstan regarding the school.
Can you go together?
Can you combine?
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Thank you so much for letting me speak. My name is Brenda Dunstan, and I live at 8166 Swiftwater Drive in Nampa, and this is my daughter, Eden. And we're here to speak on the impact having a school zone in front of Nampa Christian would have personally on our family. A little over a year ago, my daughter was involved in an accident coming out of the parking lot at Nampa Christian. And just, I'm sure you all know, no parent likes to get the call that their child has been in an accident. But that's the call that I got as I was finishing my school day at the elementary school, and was told to hurry to the high school, that there was an ambulance, and my daughter had been in a wreck. When I got there, she was laying on the grass right beside the drive with blood covering her, and her head bandaged up, looked like a mummy almost. But she winked at me and smiled as the EMTs were looking at her, and that was all that I needed to know that we were going to be okay. So we took her to the hospital. She had a severe concussion, 17 stitches later, and a giant gash right here. Fortunately, it wasn't any lower in that it could have affected her eyesight. And so we were very thankful and praised God that she was not impacted as far as her sight was concerned. But she did miss a lot of school because of the concussion. She had to quit basketball because she wasn't able to handle the pressure and the noise. And it happened right during the beginning of basketball season. And we were concerned for a secondary concussion. Probably the impact that I want to talk about as a mom is all the other kids and their parents. One of the phone calls I got was from a staff member who was driving through picking up her children. She had her 4-year-old daughter in the car, and the next day her daughter said to her, she goes, "I hope that the girl who was covered with blood is okay." And I knew my daughter was going to be okay, but that broke my heart that one of those little ones had to see that happening when it's easily preventable with a school zone. And I'll let her finish. I don't like to give you much time.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm Eden Dunstan. I live at 8166 Swiftwater Drive. And that day was really impactful to me because it paused a lot of things in my life. I'm really grateful it happened to me and not one of the younger students at the school because I was a junior at the time. And I know it could have been a lot worse. I broke a window with my head, and I know that plenty of people could have gotten in worse car wrecks than that where I was. And I'm really grateful that I was okay and that everything happened there. But if the school zone or if some sort of speed would have been speeded down, the car wouldn't have hit me at that big of an impact. It was a hit-and-run car accident, so it was very dangerous, but it ended up okay because I was out in front of the school. But if there could be a school zone, that would be very impactful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I believe we have one more this evening, and that it's not with Nampa Christian. So I just want to pause right here and say thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate it. It does make a difference, and we are so, the safety of our kids is so important, right? So thank you so much. Tom will review your information, and then we'll immediately get back. But I'll just leave it at that tonight, but thank you very much. We do have one more testimony this evening.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have Christian Case who'd like to speak on a non-agenda item.
Hello, Mayor Kling and City Council. My name is Christian Case, and I live at 435 Arrowhead Drive in Nampa. And I apologize for bringing this up at this difficult time. But I come here to talk about truth. I believe 2023 will be a year of truth, of overturning many lies and deception that we have operated under all our lives. First, let's look at some scripture. Matthew 10:10, "The thief cometh not, but to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly." John 10:10.
You are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. John 8:44. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:12. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And that's Revelation 12:7-9. And one more. This is from Daniel. Then said he, this is an angel speaking to Daniel, knowing thou wherefore I come unto thee, and now I will return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. But I will shew thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth. And there is none that holdeth with me in these things but Michael your prince. Again, Daniel 10:20-21. What I hope you will get out of these passages is that we have an adversary. That's it? Okay, well.
Would you like to finish that one sentence? We have an adversary.
Okay. We call Satan or the devil. Okay. At least I've got that far. Thank you very much. I'm not very good at timing these things. Apologize.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So we have one more item. Public hearings are to start right now, but I would like to go ahead and get our proclamation out this evening, and then we will move to the public hearings. And this proclamation is important. And Jeannie, you can make your way up as I read it if you don't mind, if it's you that's receiving it. So this is about Human Trafficking Month. And unfortunately, that is an issue that we do face in this community. And so whereas human trafficking is a nationwide public health and civil rights issue, crisis actually, and its victims and survivors are everywhere, with Nampa, Idaho being no exception. And whereas traffickers use force, fraud, or coercion to lure their victims and force them into labor or commercial sexual exploitations, and whereas anyone can become a victim of trafficking, while women and girls are the primary victims and survivors are the primary victims, victims and survivors come from every background, race, and economic status. Traffickers target individuals who, for any reason, are vulnerable. And whereas young people are particularly vulnerable to trafficking and exploitation, but face many barriers in reporting what has happened to them. Whereas all communities must seek to prevent and stop human trafficking by identifying the issue and promoting safe, healthy, and supportive environments. And whereas the city of Nampa is striving to become a place where human trafficking does not exist, where people have opportunities available to them, and where all people are treated as fully human and worthy of a supportive community and freedom. And whereas the Nampa Family Justice Center has pursued and obtained federal funding to provide education and training for our community and support services, as well as direct support for survivors to move out of the abuse into a safe and healthy environment where they can live in peace, abundance, and give back into their community. Now, therefore, I, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, do hereby proclaim the month of January 2023 Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month. And Jeannie Strohmeyer, thank you for being here to receive this. And thank you so much for all you do, but I'll let you speak to this if you would like to. Thank you.
May I take a minute?
Yes, please.
So thank you, Mayor and council members. I just want to say thank you for bringing this awareness by the proclamation. And I also wanted to honor a few people. In our audience today, we have Taylor Cook. She is our human trafficking coordinator. Would you stand? Human trafficking coordinator for the Nampa Family Justice Center. And there's Tyler, and he is with Cobb's Victim Service Provider Human Trafficking. And you can stand, Tyler. And then we have Detective Benson, Chad Benson, with the Nampa Police Department. These people work tirelessly, and they're dealing with some difficult, unimaginable things that are happening in the trafficking world. And I wanted to give honor to them. The sleepless nights, the things that they hear and see, we can't even begin to imagine. And one of the things that I wanted just to illustrate, one of the stories that they have experienced and has happened here locally, is when a young woman was in one of the homes, trafficking homes. They're called trap houses. She was in a home, she was pregnant, and she was being trafficked in this home. And they, the trafficker, pre-sold her child to somebody else, and we believe, and undoubtedly so, was for trafficking purposes. She had the baby in the home by the grace of God, and because of these diligent workers, they were able to save the child and save the mother, and took them out of that. And that child, who was destined at that time to be in trafficking as a baby, is now safe with their mother in a home and doing very well. And they're still involved with this family. And I just want to tell you, and the work that's being done on this front is phenomenal. And I want to give honor to these people because they work hours, I mean, crazy hours, and give up really pieces of themselves to do this work. It is difficult work. So thank you for allowing this to happen as mayor and council members, to allowing this work to happen, because we are making a difference for our future. We always talk about being a place where we have a safe community, a healthy community where people prosper, and that's what we are doing. We saved one baby, and that's just one of the many stories. One baby that's in this community, one mom that's in this community that is no longer going to be trafficked. So we are just celebrating that, and we are thankful today. So thank you so much, and thank you to you guys for being here.
Mayor, if I may, just on that, because Jeannie, can you come up just for one more time? You are attempting to educate this community. I know you're doing a seminar here next week, right?
Yes, Taylor's going to be doing that.
But can you just express a little bit how we can be more aware of this possibility when we're seeing something that just doesn't seem like what it should be?
Could I invite Taylor up?
Sure, if that's okay, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I realize we're past time on the public hearings, but.
So the Nampa Family Justice Center is hosting a training at the Nampa Police Department next Thursday, the 26th, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. It's just kind of the basics, understanding human trafficking. Idaho Cobbs actually has a training tonight that started, I don't know what time it is, but if it's 6 p.m., it just started at Good News Church. They're doing a community-based training tonight, and Idaho Cobbs, along with the Nampa Family Justice Center, does provide regular training for community members and other professionals in the community. So you can get in touch with myself, Jeannie, Idaho Cobbs, to be able to attend one of those community-based trainings.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think I think Nampa is just a little shocked. You know, we're over 100,000 now, but we just don't think that happens in Nampa, but.
Not true.
Not true, yeah. Thanks.
Definitely is. Thank you guys for your work. You're so appreciated. Thank you all.
And Mayor, the Nampa Christian people get to leave, right?
Yes, you may leave. You are welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you all. So we are going to move at this time. So staff communications, we will resume the agenda after public hearings, but at this time we are going to move to the public hearing section of our agenda. And our first public hearing is item 8.1 on the agenda. And this is an action item. This is vacation of 1.29, this says feet, of the eastern edge of a drainage easement between lots 5 and 6 of Block 9 on the Sunnyvale Subdivision Number 4 recorded final plat. The portion to be vacated resides on a property addressed as 11310 West Harlington Street, and this is for Austin Edwards representing Sunnyvale Properties. Is our applicant here this evening? Just walked in the door? So we actually have just started your public hearing. We did. That was just great timing. Nothing like being put. So Austin, I tell you what. So go ahead and start with your name and address, and then feel free to tell us what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I just read through the agenda item, and then we'll go to staff report, public hearing, and then we'll come back to you. So if you forgot something, you'll have an opportunity to come back and cover it.
I'm Austin Edwards, representing Hubble Homes, address 701 South Allen Street, Meridian, Idaho. This one's pretty straightforward, I think, but a little bit strange. So when we planted our foundation on this house, on this platted lot, it was built off of pins that had been disturbed. And we don't know how the pins got disturbed, but when we went out there and restaked it, they were off about 1.25 feet. So the foundation was in the existing drainage easement. So we did a lot line adjustment that's been approved under the condition that we did this vacation of easement. And so that's what we're trying to do here is remove that easement from under the building footprint.
Sounds very straightforward. So thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Austin? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot more to add to that.
There really is not. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. As stated, it's 1.29 feet of an existing drainage easement. There was no correspondence received that showed any issues or concerns. It does meet Idaho code, and we all know that relocating or vacating this easement is not going to have any effect on the house that's already there. So I will stand for any questions. I can get you to the motion if you need it.
Thank you.
There you are.
Okay, thank you. So this is a public hearing, and in looking at the records, there isn't anyone signed up to testify in support of or in opposition to this. Is there anyone in the audience this evening that had intended to testify on this matter? Seeing none, this is an opportunity for the applicant to come back and provide any closing comments, any additional comments? No? Okay, any questions from council for anyone? I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty, what is the will of the council?
Mayor Kling, I believe this is reasonable, and I would make a motion to approve the vacation of 1.29 feet of the eastern edge of the drainage easement between lots 5 and 6 of Block 9 of the Sunnyvale Subdivision Number 4 as presented to us in our packet this evening.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Everfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So that was probably the shortest length of time anyone has ever sat here, in and out. You're done. All righty, good timing.
Comes in and leaves.
So the next item is 8.2 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to Light Industrial Zoning District and potential development agreement for 4 parcels containing 35.86 acres addressed at 0 Ustick Road. This is located between, I'm not going to go into the lengthy discussion on the location, but it's for River Range Idaho LLC representing Dana Devlin and Hilda Devlin. Are our applicants here this evening? Good evening. Thank you for providing your name and address.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Stephanie Hopkins with KM Engineering, 5725 North Discovery Way in Boise, 83713. Thank you for having us here this evening. This is for an annexation into city limits with the IL zoning designation. I'm representing River Range LLC, who's representing the property owner on this project. Property is comprised of 4 parcels and is about 35.86 acres, located east of Midland, halfway between Ustick and Linden Road, as you can see on the slide here. It's currently zoned M1 in Cannon County, which is a light industrial designation, and we're just requesting to enter city limits with that, a similar zoning designation. Last year, an approximately 60-acre property was annexed in to the same zoning designation to the south. This property is located within the industrial future land use on the future land use map according to the comprehensive plan. And we are supporting several comp plan goals specifically by preserving industrial land in this area, which is a high priority for the city. Light and heavy industrial land is shown as industrial on the land use map, and we are complying with that, that use with this zoning request. And we don't have a future development plan solidified at this point, but we're requesting the zone to allow for future industrial tenants to enter the site and propose their site development as they come in. So we're in agreement with the staff report and the recommended conditions of approval. I'll stand for any questions if you have them, and I do have a couple of our development team here as well if you have questions I can't answer. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Are there any questions for Stephanie at this time? Okay, so you know the ropes. We'll come back. So at the end of public hearing, we'll see if there are any further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Parker, is this you?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I apologize for the face scar. I got attacked by a 4-year-old at home. So the action requested from you tonight is approval or denial from annexation zoning IL as the applicant went into. It's surrounded mostly by the county, with the south being IL that was approved previously last year. As far as city services, there's currently no active utility main lines. However, they are extending city utilities westward and in Ustick to the Noble Drain. And then the development to the south will be providing utilities through their development to this one. As far as the staff recommendation, the property is contiguous. The proposed IL zoning is consistent with the comp plan in the area. You have significant liberty to determine whether this is the right time and location for annexation. The land uses in the area are consistent with the county ag uses and city-zoned industrial properties. This development would be in addition to the industrial use to the south. However, the applicant has stated that it's a different developer, so whether they're going to be connected is not yet determined. The city recently annexed the property. It was about 60 acres to the south. The city codes, whether this is in the interest of the public, city codes are written to protect the public interest. They would have to follow the codes as far as the IL zoning and any other improvements that are made. So that covers most of that basis. The comments received, a couple things to note from engineering. They're dedicating 50 feet on Midland Boulevard. They will be required to do a traffic impact study. Canyon Highway District Number 4 submitted a comment that they would like to limit as many accesses off of Midland as possible. So that will be part of the access management when the development is reviewed. I've covered most of the uses in the area. I've included on my next slide the City of Caldwell future land use map that we can take a look at. The zoning fits the comp plan here. It's in the interest of the public as it provides development in the area that meets the comp plan. Here's the Caldwell comprehensive future land use map. It's low density and medium density in the area. This is the development to the south that was part of their annexation. The yellow line there is a backbone road that goes through their development, stub to the north, the south of this development. Whether that gets developed that way, it's not yet determined, I don't think, not that I have seen, at least. Conditions of approval are in the staff report, as well as here, and a potential motion, and I will stand for any questions.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Parker, as far as the layout of the 4 parcels, the eastern half of this appears to not have access from Midland Boulevard. Does Spruce Street continue on through to Midland? How is access being provided for that, the large lot there along the tracks?
Mayor, Councilman, I believe that they're going to be moving lot lines when they develop this. Right now, it doesn't have legal access. It doesn't appear to, so it would be undevelopable unless there's an access easement provided. But we can ask the applicant what their plans are as far as the lot lines and if they plan to move those.
So they could share access with one of the frontage lots on Midland to be able to get access to the back.
Yeah, that would be a requirement that they provide legal access to it if they keep them this way.
So Spruce Street isn't the access to that lot? That was my main question.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I do have a question. So, Parker, so I'm assuming this is contiguous to Caldwell? Are we touching
Correct.
Caldwell? On the west side?
So if you look at...
I've looked at that, I've just wanted to confirm.
The area surrounding this is still in the county, but it is in Caldwell's impact
Caldwell's
area.
impact. So when we have, I mean, I would appreciate, the reciprocation from Caldwell. Or do we have any communication with Caldwell on these type of requests prior to
Mayor and
making a final
Councilman,
decision on it?
We did not. This area was part of a land swap as far as area of impact. So we gave up a portion to the south and received this. So it's kind of a give and take here.
And I don't know what the normal policies are or whatever. I just like to make sure that we're communicating with our neighbors. And,
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Pardon me.
Sorry.
Mayor and
Thanks.
City Council. I just want to report, I have recently met with the city of Caldwell about this area as well as all of our impact area. They agreed that this likely shouldn't remain as low-density residential in that immediate area, and so they're looking at that in the future. But we did coordinate with them this specific location.
Okay, well, and that's what I wanted to hear, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I just want to make sure, if not in the future, that we're both reciprocating that type of communication. Thanks.
So I have a quick question. This is the northern boundary to the large ag annexation that we did for our industrial area, correct? I mean, I'm just looking, this north area that's all industrial, this is just on that northern edge. So when we annexed that in, I don't remember how long ago that was, we had some conditions of approval at that time, I believe, and I'm not seeing too many conditions of approval, and so I just want to ensure that this piece of property has the same conditions of approval that we asked of that industrial area that we annexed in previously.
Mayor and City Council, the conditions that were on that 300 acres that was annexed was largely buffering. There was some berming adjacent to that subdivision that was in the county. That was part of that development agreement. We haven't received any comments from the neighbors about anything specific to that, but we can add conditions for berming if you wish along the frontage, but those conditions weren't a part of this, no.
Okay, I believe that at the time, I'm trying to think that we actually had identified some light industrial uses that were not applicable according to our zone at that time. And I just want to make sure that, because this property is contiguous, and it really should have the same conditions of approval that we put on the property to the south, that's all industrial. That would just be my recommendation. I apologize, I didn't catch this and ask this question earlier, but thank you. Councilman Haverfield?
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's where my mind was going as well. I know that there was a limitation as far as in the uses there. And then my concern would be the same, that it patterns itself after the development of the Adler property south. So that might be the development agreement that you're looking for, that we can add that language in.
Is it possible to pull that, the conditions of approval on that? It would be helpful to have it right now as we finalize this.
Mayor, we can look that up certainly and go through those with you.
Okay.
It should be pretty quick.
Thank you. Well, why don't we go ahead and, are there any further questions for Parker at this time? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open our public hearing, which will just take 2 seconds because this is a public hearing and there isn't anyone signed up to testify in favor of or in opposition to this. Is there anyone in the audience today that had intended to sign up? Yes. Go ahead and come forward. Go ahead and give us your name and address. And thank you.
18439 Midland.
Whoops. There you go. Say that one more time now that you're at the mic.
18439 Midland Boulevard.
I'm sorry, could you
Right
repeat your
across the
name?
street.
Your name.
Angela Brinkman.
Thank you, Angela.
So this project has been put off multiple times, and we were not able to be here many times. My concern is primarily with traffic flow. If I understood you correctly tonight, the recommendation was Canyon County District 4 wants to limit the access off of Midland, but I don't know how that's possible because there's no other streets along this project. So did I misunderstand that?
I think I'll let staff respond to that. I think if I were understanding it, is that there won't be multiple access points. They're wanting to limit the access points. But who would be able to answer that question? Caleb, thank you. This is the expert, not me.
Okay. And then my second question would be what Canyon County District intends to do, because I know even the traffic that gets funneled onto our street, sometimes it will back up all the way from Linden almost to Ustick, and there's a stop sign way past our house. So you'll see there's a little rise in front of our house and cars come and they're hitting the brakes. And I'm just worried about if there's big trucks and stuff going into an industrial site, unless they're making a third lane for beginning and ending left turns specifically, that it's going to be a problem. So those would be my big concerns, but
And
you can
thank
maybe
you so much.
clarify, because like I said, Midland is the only street right now.
Perfect. Well, thank you. We
Okay.
will have staff provide comment at the end of the staff report, so thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Is there anyone else that had intended to testify this evening? Okay, so Caleb, why don't you go ahead and come up and provide some response to that question, and then maybe we have the other information available.
Yeah, Caleb LeClaire, Assistant City Engineer for Nampa. So when we consider this property for development, we will be looking very closely at access management in addition to what Canyon Highway District 4 indicated. So Spruce Street is intended to be constructed with this development and the industrial space to the south. It's not going to go further to the east. We don't intend for it to cross the railroad tracks in Mason Creek, but it is intended that there would be a main road that would line up with Spruce Street at Midland Boulevard. And that would be the main access to this area off of Midland. It's not to say we wouldn't necessarily approve another access on Midland, but it would have to meet our access spacing policies to allow that. But we have the same concerns with Canyon Highway District. We want to limit access onto Midland. The other item too is the property to the south. They have that spine road that's planned up through their site. That needs to pretty much go in to make this property feasible to develop, because that's where their utilities are going to come from. So they will have access through that southerly road as well, which will take them down to Ustick. And the access That road to Ustick will line up with Adler's main road, which is Gable Avenue. So we'll have interconnectivity between these two industrial sites at Ustick Road and then the main axis at Spruce.
Thank you. Is anyone else visual like me? Parker, could you be showing us that map while he was speaking? That would be very helpful to be.
I apologize. That probably is pretty confusing to
For someone not
name a whole
as,
bunch of roads that you have no idea where they are, yeah.
well, in Spruce, but the Spine one, I'm not sure. So Parker, thank you.
Sure.
If you could go back
Yeah.
to the presentation. And yes, Councilman Haverfield.
Okay, so I asked the question and I got a different answer. So what you're saying is that on the southern line or southern boundary of this property, Spruce will be attaching to Midland.
Correct. That's what's proposed.
Okay,
Yes.
so it's not going to cross over the tracks to the east, but
Correct.
that will provide access to that furthest lot to the east as far as configured here.
Correct. And we want that as the main axis because that lines up on the half-mile section, which is where we would typically have a collector road.
Okay, and that makes more sense for queuing purposes. So, so there might potentially be another access point further north on Midland and to access the other two lots.
Potentially, but we would also look for cross-access between all of these parcels so that, again, we are limiting access.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Spruce is the primary access then.
Correct. That's the intent.
Thank you.
And just to reiterate as well, is they will be required to do a traffic impact study. It's not completed yet. We have done a scoping meeting with them, but we do look to have that traffic study submitted sometime here soon.
Thank you. I think we did have a citizen that had another question. And so Rodney, I'm wondering if our citizen could ask you the question or Caleb, and then you guys could address it. Yes, that's you. So if you guys could visit real quickly. So I'm not sure, except that, Parker, do you have the answer to our question? Okay, why don't you come up and talk about the conditions of approval?
Mayor and council, so there is a list of uses that was included in the development agreement, which we can transfer over.
Could you read those to us?
Yes,
please?
let me pull it up. We didn't require these with the development to the south. The development agreement was the 300 acres ended at the U-Stick, so anything north of U-Stick doesn't have those same development agreement. So if we attach those conditions to this one, it would kind of leapfrog the development to the south of it, but that's a decision for you to make. The uses are here. It's pretty straightforward industrial uses. We can apply these same uses to this development if you wish.
So if you don't mind me repeating, Natalie's question was, how did that happen? So help me understand, the property between these two properties, we've annexed in, but we did not put the same development agreement stipulations. Was it already annexed in, or did we miss that? Because the natural progression would be that we would have continuity.
So the parcel to the south was annexed in last year. The 300 acres was annexed in 3 years ago. So there was a couple years gap in there. Why it wasn't included, I'm not sure, but it's, if we were going to continue that development agreement, it would seem that we would just make that code unless it was part of, just a specific area plan. But that's something we can look at if we needed to.
Okay, so I guess I may have Caleb visit with, Rodney, I need to visit with you. So if you could, I'll let you come forward and talk to us if you don't mind as Caleb answers the questions back there. We were making some changes to our industrial and really clarifying our industrial. And so we just realized that the property to the south of this, when we annexed it in a year ago, we did not continue the development agreement guidelines.
Correct.
Which the question was, how did we do that? And so evidently we did, and so it would be leapfrogging. I know we've talked about changing some of our light industrial, the categories there, right? So can you talk to us about maybe where we should go on this one?
Yeah, Mayor, I agree. We had a full discussion about those requirements at that time. And the council at that time agreed to not put those conditions on them. If you look at the amount of space that's along Midland Boulevard, I think that might have been part of the discussion, if I recall correctly, that there's not a lot of space. The biggest difference between the properties to the south were that they had some significant frontage along Midland Boulevard, and so we had a berm that was required at that time. And so this one to the south, as you can see, doesn't have that large amount of space. Access is probably going to be taken from that location that's touching Midland Boulevard, so that berm is probably not as applicable there. The number of uses, I don't recall the discussion about the uses, but I just know that they weren't concerned about it based on what they were proposing at that time. We do have a list. I just showed the applicant this evening just that quick list of what are the allowed uses. There's a lot of allowed uses that would work just fine in industrial if we applied that same development agreement to this one. So I defer to their response here. They were familiar with this. They were the ones that submitted the application to the south. They're familiar with our discussion about whether to apply that development agreement. And so I would like to defer to them in their closing remarks, and they might have some thoughts on there. But again, we can bring up those development agreement conditions if you would like and walk through those and see if you want to have those same conditions apply. And again, that would be a discussion with you and the applicant.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman.
Are we, at this point, is this property subject to design review for the industrial design review?
It is currently not. Those changes haven't been adopted by City Council yet. So I guess I'd look to our attorney on that question. Can we require that the development follow the design review standards of a future date that we don't have in place yet?
Madam Mayor and council members, Councilmember Haverfield, yes, if the applicant particularly is okay with that in the development agreement. Otherwise, if you can provide justification as to the impact of this related to the condition, then you could include it. But you have to provide the basis for that, not just we have an ordinance coming up. If you could describe as, and you want to do that, describe as to why you want to do it and how it's tied to the application, you could.
Go ahead.
So in fairness to other already existing industrial ground in the city, if someone wanted to build an industrial building on it, we don't have any design review standards at this point?
We don't have them right now, but if a permit is being applied for, and at that time we had design review standards in place, we would require that they go through design review.
But that's a date uncertain at this point.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
So I think what I'm hearing, though, is my understanding is when it's annexation, it's a request for annexation, and we have a development agreement, it is our opportunity to actually state what our desire is. We have been working diligently to create new design standards for industrial properties. We've worked very collaboratively with the development community, and they feel good about where we are, but it is increasing our standard. And yet, there is a reasonableness to what we're wanting to accomplish because we understand the cost to the developer to do so. So it would be my recommendation, if we do approve annexation and zoning to light industrial in a development agreement, that they are required to adhere to the new design standards as they are put in place, in keeping with the design and the intent of the community, especially in light of the fact that it's going to be abutting some residential properties in the future.
So Mayor, just for clarity then, back to my question, properties that are already annexed, already zoned IL or L, or just industrial, there is no design review standards at this point. If someone were to come in tomorrow with a project,
There are design review standards in place, just not the same design review standards. We have encouraged a different design standard. Is that correct? So I think what I'm hearing you, Randy, say is that there are no design standards in place.
well, go ahead, Rodney.
There, Madam Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, there are design standards as far as setbacks and, we're going to follow our typical requirements for access and landscaping. All of those conditions are still in place.
But not building facade.
But not the building facades on industrial.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Well, at some time, we better get it going, in my opinion. So it's time that we set a standard and
We'll
we
just
adhere
have
to
a
our
rush of
standard.
industrial projects happening in the next week.
Yeah, I think we need to. Go ahead, legal.
Mayor, thank you. I didn't think in my head about this being an annexation. So with an annexation, as you mentioned, you have a lot more discretion as to whether they annex or not and what your conditions might be.
Thank you. I knew that's what you meant.
Mayor, off the subject, but isn't our agenda on Thursday, isn't that a discussion?
It is a discussion.
Okay, so I mean, it's
But
not.
whatever, yeah, it is coming right away.
Right, so it's
Right.
not something that we're talking about down the road 2-3 months from now. I mean,
It'll be on the agenda. We hope to have it on the council agenda for approval with a public hearing. I don't remember those dates, but we put them in, it's in March.
the discussion of that is
It's
this
Thursday.
Thursday morning.
Yes, it is. Yep. Yeah, in my opinion, anything that we annex in at this point, and any approvals we have, because that is on its way, we've spent a tremendous amount of time working on it. I think any annexations should have a development agreement that we adhere to what we're working on. So at this time, I think that the question, and we get to take notes because we'll get to hear from you guys in just a minute, really has to do with the conditions of approval. As far as any additional light industrial uses or lack of uses. And so unless there's something further, I think, is our applicant going to talk about that? Is Stephanie, did you share those with Stephanie, Rodney? Okay. So, yes.
Property to the south, would we be proper in indicating that as the Adler property, or is there a better term as far as just for reference?
The mayor and councilman, it's the same ownership? Adler? Are you referring to the 300 acres to the
Yes.
south of you? Oh, that's the Adler
Right.
development area.
And that's the property we're talking about where we put restrictions
The
on
development
use
agreement,
and then
yeah.
put the setbacks and everything. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Parker? Okay, so we opened the public hearing. There was no one here to testify on behalf. Right now, we're at the point of having the applicant get to have an opportunity to come back with any closing comments. So thank you for listening patiently and for sharing with us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Louis Spiker, 199 North Capitol Boulevard, Boise. I was here in July of last year on the related property to the south. They're independent developments, but they are related entities, related development. They're just separate projects. The same issue was raised at that council meeting. And when you look, so two things really were addressed. Is one, the council had specific concerns, including with regard to transfer stations and with regard to other potential uses that would be subject to a conditional use permit. So the council and my client felt that there was no need to have a development agreement to limit those uses. If there were conditional use, it would come before the council come before the city at that time. We reviewed the Adler development agreement at that time, and when you look at what those limitations are, it's within 300 feet of an existing, I believe it was a county subdivision, but it was with regard to a buffer between an existing subdivision. Not just that there were kind of across-the-board limitations, it was that there was an existing use that, in that situation, required a buffer. We don't have the same issues here, and with regard to what will likely be enacted by March on the upcoming design review guidelines for the light industrial side of things, my client has participated in that process. They support that process, and frankly, I mean, whatever's developed here will be subject to whatever the city enacts with regard to that. And that, on the facade, with regard to kind of the buffers along Midland, that's what the design review is going to address. But with regard to limiting uses within IL, that we have a different factual situation than what the 300 acres to Adler was faced with. And with the upcoming design review guidelines, which I believe will be enacted, that they would address some of these same concerns. But when you look at number 3, which I believe Parker brought up on the board, it's the 300 feet from the north side estate subdivision of where those limitations were put into place. We don't have a subdivision that this borders at this time. As Rodney stated, based on what his statement was, Caldwell's revisiting, or they intend to revisit, they likely will revisit, I'm not sure, I don't want to speak for Caldwell, but the kind of that low density residential, if they revisit that, I don't believe it would be proper to implement the same type of restrictions when we don't have the same adjoining existing uses that Adler had when this was done 3 years ago. Just so I'm clear, the development directly to the south is different ownership. They're related developments, but they are independent projects. Happy to stand for any questions.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so are there any questions for, I see none for the applicant because we will be closing public hearing, which will limit our opportunity to come back. Are there any questions for our staff? Yes.
So Rodney, as far as in our ordinance, is it chapter 34 that deals with the IL zone design review standards and when they will be implemented? Will it follow the chapter 34?
Correct. We are proposing to revise Chapter 34, and there are specific changes to that chapter that we'll go over on this coming, is it Thursday? Yeah, this Thursday, 2 days from now, we'll go over those proposed changes. We've already reviewed on a high level with you before, but we have more specifics for the exact wording of the code, and we have a guideline document to show them what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay. Thank you.
But it is Chapter 34 that will be revised.
Right, I thought it was, but, it's a little bit more elaborate in the BC and the gateway zones as far as the
Correct.
material changes. And I know of the industrial conversations as far as for design review were less restrictive, but still
Correct.
had facade changes.
That's correct, yeah. So 34 will be changed, but we'll call out specifically industrial projects and have a little bit less stringent requirements on those industrial projects.
But berming and landscaping, that falls under a different chapter, does it not?
So I can't remember, but we have addressed that in, I can't remember the chapter that we're addressing that in. It might be the specific zone, but we are addressing it with the changes we're making. Not just to Chapter 34, we're making some changes to other chapters as well, so that we address all those issues.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any other questions? If not, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Again.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, this is an opportunity for the council to discuss the direction they would like to take.
Oh, me? Okay, Mayor, just in following the tone of the conversation, I believe that you were spot on in your intent to understand as far as the requirements that we placed on the Adler property. I believe that that was to try to create a more inviting, as far as development, that is, eventually, these are primary roads that people are driving up and down Midland, and then Spruce, I think, will, in a smaller form, will have, should have an inviting aspect to it. The fact that the rail line to the east is potentially there for rail access, again, it's not really abutting any residential development, but there will be residential development to the west. Maybe it's Canyon County, maybe it's Caldwell. So I think my desire would be for us to maintain the same standards that we placed on the Adler property, and that was for the berming. And then for the setbacks, there will be added, depending on when anything's built here, there might be added facade changes that'll be required under the new design review standards. But right now, I think it's important that we maintain the list of uses that we went through thoroughly on the Adler property, and then the berming and setbacks, I think, are important as well. So I would support a motion that would accomplish that.
So if we were to read this motion, including the conditions of approval as well as noted, I don't see that in there, with all findings and conditions listed in the staff report, in addition to, and then it would be adding the conditions of approval tied to the other property, and that they would adhere to the new design standards as they're finalized. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, and I think if you go through, it does state in the packet, conditions of approval, and there's 5 items there that we would just add to that instead of trying to create a development agreement. Just have, include under conditions of approval some of these items that we've discussed.
Okay,
I would be in favor of that.
okay. So Rodney, does that work on the way, if we just add to the conditions of approval, those 2 items, that the conditions of approval.
Berm and the land uses?
The land uses as approved in the other conditions of approval that we
Okay.
did on the property to the south,
And
including the berming, whatever was in there, and the adherence, the next condition of approval is that they adhere to the new design standards as they're rolled out.
Yep.
So those would be the conditions of approval. Okay,
That would be setbacks and berming.
okay.
Especially
Setbacks
out in
and berming.
Midland, yeah.
Okay, did you guys catch that? Setbacks and berming, okay.
And Mayor, just clarify, so
Yes.
the conditions of approval that are up there, that would include
Yes.
these 4 also?
Those in addition to.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I just want to make sure the motion is stating that.
There was a fifth one in the packet, which is the development of a traffic impact study. I don't see that up there.
So Parker, let's clarify that, because if the one in the packet, there were 5 in the packet and there's 4 up here, and the traffic impact study, I let mine close, but if that's, is there the 5th one, the traffic impact study in the packet?
Mayor and council, I believe you're right. It should be the ones that are in the packet instead of the ones that are on the screen.
I'm on page 395.
Mayor and council, yeah, the ones in the packet are correct.
Okay. So the condition, we'll be very clear that the conditions of approval as listed on page 395 of the packet, of which there are 5, and then the other conditions of approval that we have stated previously. Okay, so that's what the motion would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Is that clear, Char? Sure. Okay. That's my motion.
Okay.
second that.
There is a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Jingula,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Everfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you very much. I hope that works for you guys, and thank you. Take care. Okay, we are moving on to item 8.3 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district and a potential development agreement at 506 North Middleton Road. This is for Ramon Torres Patlin, and this is to connect to city pressurized irrigation service. Is our applicant here this evening? Thank you for coming forward and stating your name and address, and if you have more to say about what you'd like to do.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Ramon Torres. This is my dad. I'm speaking for him. 506 North Middleton Road. He's seeking annexation to the city to get access to pressurized irrigation water.
Wonderful. And I'm sorry if I didn't say your name really well, but thank you.
No, that's fine.
Thank you for being here this evening. We'll go ahead and have staff report, and then we'll have you back again if we have a question for you. Okay. Thank you. So Rodney, this is yours.
Mayor and City Council, for the record, Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director for the City of Nampa. The request before you is for annexation and zoning of 506 North Middleton Road to connect an existing residential property to city pressurized irrigation services. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with all conditions and findings as proposed in your staff report. This could be really quick. You have an idea of where it's at there off of Orchard and Middleton. The comp plan is shown there. It's in your packet. Here's the zoning, a closer up view of the zoning here. It's contiguous, as you can see. The utilities that are available to the site. And again, they're just requesting irrigation at this time. They did have some questions about whether they would have to abandon their drinking well. And we reaffirmed with them that they don't have to until they've connected to water services in the future. But they're familiar with what the requirements are for when you annex into the city and the change in taxes. Residential all around it, as you can see, here's the proposed findings. I put that in your staff report. Happy to cover those in detail if you need to. The correspondence we've received, pretty standard comments. We did have some requested conditions from engineering, and here are those recommended conditions of approval, and any that you wish to add to these. And then here is a motion for your consideration. I stand for questions.
Mayor.
Thank you. Yes.
So Rodney, just hooking up to irrigation, so they don't have to pay for water and service, sewer at this time. Is there a break that they get as far as in their bill, or how does that work?
I don't know. Caleb, you help me?
Mayor, Councilman Halverfield, irrigation is billed completely separate from water and sewer. So they're two completely different bills, so they won't be charged water and sewer unless they hook up to it.
So the annexation doesn't trigger them to have to participate in any way?
No.
Until they hook up?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for that question and the clarification. So I understand that they do not have to hook up to city water or sewer at this time, just to get the pressurized irrigation. Thank you for that clarity. So this is a public hearing, and again, we do not have anyone signed up to testify in support of or in opposition to. Is there anyone here that had intended to testify this evening? Seeing none, this is an opportunity for the applicant to have any closing comments or council to ask any further questions. Are there any questions from council? Does our applicant have any further comment? No? Okay. I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what is the will of the council?
Okay, I'll do it. I'll pronounce it.
Go for it.
Thank you. I move to approve the annexation and zoning to RS6 single-family residential zoning district and potential development agreement for 506 North Middleton Road for Ramon Torres Patlin with a recommended condition and proposed findings. ¿Cómo le hice bien? Thank you.
I second that as pronounced. Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Other than thank you for saying it all correctly.
You're welcome. Any chance I get, I'll do it.
Thank you. Okay, roll call.
Changula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Everfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Brunner.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
There you go. Thank you for being here this evening. Take care. Thank you. Okay, our last public hearing this evening is item 8.4. This is an action item. This is the vacation of an 80-foot by 256-foot and an 80-foot by 256-foot and a 10-foot by 60-foot and a 20 by 256-foot portions of a public utility easement at 215, 30, and 307 East Hawaii Avenue. This is for Brandon McDougald, representing Pedcore Investments. Is our applicant here this evening? Good evening. Thank you for going ahead and stating your name and address.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. I'm not Brandon. He's my supervisor. He was double booked tonight, so I'm covering for him. My name is Joe Dodson from Kinley Horn, 1100 West Idaho Street, Suite 210 in Boise, Idaho, 83702. So again, hopefully this is a quick one, like the first and the third. This is for a few easements. I would just like to clarify, the third easement listed, the 10 by 60, has actually already been vacated. We found that out through the process that that easement was already vacated previously. So it is only the two large ones and then the 5,000 square foot one. There we go. Here's the vicinity map, just showing the overall project. The project was previously approved for a conditional use permit for multifamily development in this location here, as you can see off of Hawaii and 12th. I did not know there were slide transitions. Here are the existing easements that we are requesting to be vacated through this process. They're on an old plat, as you can see here. I'll show the next slide. It'll give a better understanding of why we do not need these. As you can tell, through the new site plan, this just shows phase one, which I have the original information for those approvals there. We don't need the easement on the left anymore. The center easement obviously goes through some buildings and common area, as does the one on the right. So again, we just trying to clean up the area. We don't need these easements anymore. And so simply we are just requesting approval of these vacations of these easements. And I will hear for any questions.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions? Councilman Haverfield, questions?
I don't recall this being passed, so I was going to wait till staff presented something.
Okay,
So I can ask them.
perfect. Okay, we will have you back at the end of the public hearing. Thank you so much. Okay, Parker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. With the action requested approval, denial, vacation, the applicant covered the areas here. The area to the north, there's a tumor institute, senior apartments, rec center to the south, St. Al's to the west, Liberty Park to the east. The current status of this, so it's in city limits. The property is currently has building permits in the process and being reviewed as we speak. The history, so this project came before the Planning and Zoning Commission in February of 2021. They approved the conditional use permit for multifamily residential apartments and then recommended an approval of a rezone from RD to RP, which was kind of an eastern portion. You can't see it on the screen, but it was across the street for another block. This body the rezone came before this body in March of 2021, and it was denied for the rezone. So the applicant, the developer, went forward with the land that they did have zoned RP to, and with the CUP to build multifamily buildings on the RP zoned area.
Parker, so this did not come back before city council then? Because I remember the denial, I just couldn't remember us approving concepts, so it never reached this body then.
Mayor and city council member, yes, the CUP was approved by planning and zoning, so they took the CUP and the area that was already zoned RP and developed that instead of the rezoned area.
Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, just for clarity, Mayor and Council, we have since changed our code to say that if a CUP comes with something else that goes to city council, that both of those things come to city council. So you would see these today, but back then, our code didn't require that it go to city council.
Okay, especially on the multifamily housing aspect of it as well.
Yeah, so some things have changed since 2021. The applicant covered the areas being vacated. The small block here is an Idaho Power easement. The staff recommendation in this case, they will need to follow state code, obviously. And then vacating the easement is necessary in the public interest because easements are for, the purpose of those are to have easier access to facilities that hold public utilities. In this case, the easements do have some utilities, but those would need to be vacated back to their main lines in East Hawaii. So they're not necessarily being utilized, but with development, those lines will be vacated back to the main line, as was stated in the engineering comments. And then Idaho Power stating that they don't have any use for their easement. So no concerns there. The conditions of approval are in the staff report, a motion, and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Parker. Okay, council, do you have questions? Any questions for Parker?
So, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I remember the original project, I favored it. I thought it was put together well, but it died at the council level in the process. So moving forward at this point, the design of the buildings themselves, will they be subject to design review at a staff level or at a commission level or before this body?
Mayor and Councilman, these have already gone through design review and they're at the building permit phase.
Okay, so they've met all the criteria. Okay.
Correct.
Well, this zoning,
RP.
yeah, RP, it's not a BC zone, so it's not a planned unit development beyond what we're seeing. So is it just one lot or are there multiple lots?
This is just one lot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is a public hearing, and we do have one person signed up.
Madam Mayor, we have Patrick Stoffergen. He is the applicant rep. He is available virtually to answer any comments, questions, or concerns.
Thank you. So does he have comments he's wanting to testify during public hearing? Is he online? He's online. I guess because he is signed up, we should go ahead and give him opportunity if he has anything he would like to say. And
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm joining in virtually. I'm Patrick Stoffergen with Pedcore Investments, 720 3rd Avenue Southwest, Carmel, Indiana, 46032. I don't know that I have anything further specifically to add other than, we'd certainly appreciate your support in this matter. As you saw on some of the maps, these easements, which sort of came along with an early plat of this area where it was thought that some public rights of way were going to be coming through here. Obviously, that didn't happen with St. Alphonsus building their hospital there, and will continue to not happen as we proceed with our apartment development. And so cleaning this up on our title work is just going to be very helpful for us to get going with our HUD financing and hopefully break ground, if not this quarter, then next quarter. So I just appreciate everyone's time and attention to this matter, and I'm here for any questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate your testimony. Okay, is there anyone else that had signed up this evening?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, is there anyone here that had intended to testify that did not get signed up? Okay, seeing none, this is an opportunity for our applicant to come back and provide any closing comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Again, just thank you for your time tonight. And I didn't mention it earlier, but we are in we agree with all the conditions of approval, as simple as they are. And as Patrick said, this will help unencumber some building lots and buildings, so we appreciate your approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions before we close public hearing? Okay, thank you so much. If there are no questions for the applicant or staff, I'd stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is an opportunity for council to discuss and/or come forward with a motion. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, I think this is pretty straightforward. It's just a vacation of some easements, so I'll make the motion to approve the vacation of those easements. I believe they said that there was one of them that's already been vacated. Was it the 10-foot by 60-foot? Okay. So the vacation of the 80-foot by 256-foot, the 80-foot by 250, second one for 256 feet, and then the 20 by 256 feet portions of the public utility easement as presented in the packet. Second.
Okay, with conditions of approval as applied.
With all conditions of approval in our staff packet, prepared packet.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Ingula.
Yes.
Bauer. Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our public hearings for this evening. We are going to move back to the beginning portion of our agenda, and that is with 2 staff reports. And our first staff report this evening, and we do not have any agency or commission reports, so Amy, thank you.
You get to ask her question.
And for the record, yes, I'll let you go ahead and introduce who you are. Yes, thank
Good
you.
evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Amy Bowman. I'm the Director of Communications. I think I have one of the best jobs at the city, so. I'm here just very briefly. I know you guys have a full plate still left, but I wanted to share a little peek behind the curtain because we have been working on refreshing our website. We currently use a company called Civic Plus, and the product that we purchased allows us to have a refresh for free every 4 years. And so we actually started this process before 2020, and then things happened and we've kind of put it on the back burner. And anyway, we have been working really diligently, and I'll give my cohort Patrick over here. We've had a lot of discussions about how to improve our website. For me personally, I really want to improve the experience for our citizens, and I think Councilman Rodriguez really wanted some more pizzazz, so I wanted to work that in too. So I just briefly, this is our current website. If you haven't been to it before, so a lot of kind of standard things that we've had, and I really haven't done a lot of editing to it since it was, I think it was new in about 2017, I think. So the new website will be very similar in terms of function. The functionality doesn't really change a whole lot, but the design, the pizzazz, hopefully, is better. So this is still somewhat in draft form. We're hoping to launch it this month. Oops. Okay. But I just wanted to share some of my favorite parts with you. One, this is more mobile friendly. The one that we have currently, over half of our users are actually accessing it on their mobile device, and it's not as responsive as I would like for it to be. But we've added a few other elements that I think will make for the citizen experience a lot better. These tabs that you can cycle through, which are still in process but are easily editable, will hopefully make it so less clicks when people go to our website and they can find what they're looking for. Added a new thing for our city council districts, which of course will be very popular in the coming months. A short message from the mayor. And then I'm really excited about these boxes, mostly because this is an element that we can use in our internal pages. And so this will be a nice feature that we don't currently have. News and events, calendar, that's all pretty standard. And then this will be a section that will be developed over time, but in theory, I would like to highlight some of our city staff, city departments, and things like maybe some open houses or a comp plan that maybe wouldn't rotate as much as our news releases. Development Services now has their own page, and it is very similar. We had to use, there we go, the same template as the homepage. So anyway, but they were able to customize it, so a message from Director Long and other things that are more pertinent to the department. So similar, I won't go through all of them. Police have a new one. Actually, Chief Huff doesn't know that I added this. Animal control, just for fun. We put the alligator for animal control. If you remember, they did have an alligator for the animal control feature. So actually, I think Carmen probably won't like me either, but that was just for fun. So this is still a little bit in development and economic development as well. So these are all customized for the department. And I am really excited. If you would like to provide feedback, this is kind of our first, the wireframe. We needed to get through this process, and then hopefully we can engage the community with other feedback they might have. We definitely looked at the analytics from Google on why people are coming to our site. All of those are really high up on our page, so the brains behind why people come is all there. But if people felt like their experience could be improved in some way, we're always open for feedback. And with that, I'll stand for
Mayor, Amy, it's really looking nice. And thank you as far as pizzazz. We don't have Councilman Rodriguez in a hula skirt or something. So.
Yes, I don't know
As long
if
as
you
that's not
noticed, if
happening,
you
we can do
wait,
It was in the first slide, though.
Councilman Bruner, you are on the little cycle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Upside
I
down.
did see you there.
Upside down on
I
the
put
golf
you
cart.
there to recognize that.
No, yeah, my better half was looking good, yes. Okay.
So,
Amy, you did good. Thank you. That
it
is so
pizzazz?
cool. I'm happy.
Okay.
I'm smiling.
okay, thank you.
Amy, thank you so much. As always, we so appreciate your work. Thank you.
We'll make Darrell go take you to taco time like he takes his wife.
So Doug, it's kind
Valentine's
of
Day.
hard to follow that, isn't it? It is, the health trust audit.
I should have
How's
gone
that?
first, and then you could have something fun to follow me afterwards. Mayor, councilors, it's been, in fact, I don't know that I've ever come before you to give a report on the health of the Employee Welfare Benefits Trust. But since we just completed the annual audit just before Christmas, I wanted to give a brief update on the health trust so you know the status of it. We received a clean audit opinion, and for any of those of you who know about that, a clean audit opinion simply states that they found in all material respects, our statements are fairly presented. And that's the gold standard. The health trust is part of a very competitive benefits package the city offers. When I started here, our benefits for health trust were good, but probably a little less than some of our competing cities. And at the time, the health trust itself, our investment in dollars, was slowly growing. So we had to make a choice. Do we change the benefits? Do we reduce premiums? Do we increase our benefits? We made the choice to make our package much more comparable with other cities. And the result is we have a health insurance program at equilibrium, meaning the amount of money coming in from the premiums is very much equaling the amount of cost we have going out for claims. And that's really where I want it to be. We don't want to pull in extra money from the premiums and hoard them. We don't want to get to a point where our trust fund is less than satisfactory. We're well above the Department of Insurance minimum requirement, so we're healthy and we want to stay that way. You don't know what's going to happen down the road. All it takes is 3 or 4 significant claims, cancer, something of a major event that can really cause an impact to the health trust. But we're very stable. We have a clean opinion, and we're going to manage it that way for the foreseeable future. The health trust is administered by 3 trustees: the lead finance person, the lead HR person, and one other designee, which is Rick Hogelboom. So myself, Marissa O'Brien, and Rick Hogelboom administer the program. It is separate from the city. The DOI requires a degree of separation. in order to administer it separately. But I think there's a copy of the audit in your package, but I just wanted to give you the brief update that we are well-funded and at a good position to maintain the benefits that we currently offer. And unless there are questions, I will turn it over to somebody maybe more exciting than an audit result.
Doug, thank you so much. I
Thanks.
appreciate your work. Are there any questions? Thank you. And congratulations. You know what? It's such a relief to get clean audits, so thank you.
One audit down, the next one's on.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Tom Points, Public Works.
Mayor, Council, I got a few things on the staff report for you today. So you have your snow report. Good news, Lightning McLean is back up and running again. So that was Councilor Haverfield's question from last time. So
It's important.
we got the fuel injector fixed and we're up and running. Really not much snow events as far as the weather forecast goes in the next 7 to 10 days. It's been kind of a rain. It's been raining down here and snowing in the mountains, so that's been helpful for our snow operations. And then we have the two-page report on the wastewater plant construction in there for you. I won't go through every detail, just kind of go, believe it or not, we're a third of the way done. It's going quickly. And then, I really appreciate Jacob's actually here for a different item. They do a good job of maintaining safety on the site. So that's very apparent through the data that they provided us. So that's all good news. And then lastly, let's talk a little bit about the Nampa Christian School request and kind of what we're planning on thinking on doing there. So certainly safety's high priority for us. And we had Matt Ricks and Crystal here, our traffic experts. They were listening in. And so we will see what we can do there to improve safety. That, like I said, we're very committed to that. So it's been our practice not to have school zones or in areas where there's high schools and there's no pedestrian crossings, which is why that was put in place. So there's other high schools in Nampa that have a similar situation, like Columbia High School also does not have a speed zone there because they don't have pedestrian crossings. But that's not to say that we can't do something, and we will look at it and try to improve safety there somehow. We need to make sure, one of the things Crystal and Matt and I need to talk about is really look closely at the standards. So our standards are actually written down that all agencies and highway departments follow to make sure that we're doing things correctly. So we'll look in the manual of uniform traffic control devices and see what we can do for speed zones in this situation. The one thing I do want to mention is that just changing a speed limit doesn't always just change the behavior of drivers. And what actually does change the behavior of drivers is doing something to make that feel less like a rural 2-lane road where people need to go fast. If it looked a little more urban with maybe some turn lanes or some different traffic calming devices on it, that would get the result that they're looking for. So those are some of the things we'll look at. I do also want to mention that the Flamingo and Midway intersection, that T intersection, there's a development that's already in the works on the west side of Midway. And one of the requirements for them through their phasing on their project is to build a signal at that location. So that'll get the PED crossing. It would trigger the speed zone at that point. And then it improve the safety all the way around through that development. So we'll look at some things we don't know exactly when that'll happen, so let's look at some things in the meantime that we can do. There is enough pavement width to even add a turn lane in there, which I think would help with some speeds and giving some people some pockets, be able to get out safely. So we will take a look at that. We'll also look at the lighting out that intersection, and so we'll take a look at the petition when we get a copy of it and the speed data and come up with something. We'll get back with the school, like Mayor says, ASAP, and then we'll come back with a report on what we found out.
Mayor, if I may, just a quick question on that. So yeah, I realize as high schools, especially kids, students and so on, leave all different times with athletic events and so on. Is it possible to have some flashing yellows at all in the mornings where there's a more chance of fog and darkness as far as when they're actually arriving to school?
Right, so that would.
And they probably wouldn't appreciate this, but, a private school, I mean, I don't know I would think they are passionate enough where they may want help with some payment of that, so.
Yeah. So that's certainly an option, and like I said, we're gonna look through the uniform manual of traffic control devices and see what we can put out there, and yeah, that is an option. We'll bring some options.
So I would just think, with the foggy, I realize that's not all the time, but we do have that crazy, fog and this time of year, so, yeah.
So Tom, thank you. What I appreciate in listening to you is that there are a lot of different methods, right, that can be applied. It's not just one. And so thank you for the fact that you explore all of those and think about all the different ways and things that could be done that are traffic calming. I do have one question, and I apologize for asking it, but I feel like I should. They mentioned Elevate Academy, how Elevate Academy actually does have a school zone, yet they don't. And so can you just maybe explain I don't know if you've gotten to research that, what's the difference?
So that I'm not sure if that's an elementary school or.
Elevate Academy is a new, it's a high school and I think middle school, and it is out in the country. And it's a brand-new school that just opened, and so they did reference that, and I thought, well, that's really interesting.
So we'll add that to our research.
Thank you.
My guess, I didn't get a chance to look it up on Google, but they may have pedestrian crossings around that school, which triggered the school zone. So, I'll look into it, Mayor.
Thank you. That way
Yep.
you can answer that question.
Yep.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Appreciate the work. Thank you so much, Tom. Great work in all regards. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into the new business segment, and so Matt Jamison's item is up first. The 7-1 is an action item. This is to approve the allocation.
Alligator.
Well, I'll get it here, yeah. Of the CDBG funding in the amount of $191,353 to the Downtown Master Design Plan as recommended, and this is approved in the FY23 budget.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Matt, for waiting for that. Now you can go home. Yes, thank you. 7-2 is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor on behalf of the city to participate and execute the opioid settlement agreements with 3 chain pharmacies, Walmart, CVS, and Walgreens, and 2 opioid manufacturers, Teva Pharmaceutical and Allergan maybe, and authorize actually the mayor to sign any future opioid settlement opportunities. This is so that we don't have to keep coming back every time there is a settlement, that we're just authorized to go ahead and participate. This has been reviewed and approved by legal.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So this is A and B of the action items.
Yes,
Correct.
it is. Yes. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bauer. Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 7-3 is an action item. This is to authorize the police department to publish a declaration of notice of intent to execute a sole source contract for the purchase of a Bearcat armored vehicle and related equipment from Lenco in the amount of $377,469. So go ahead, Shad, come on up. You would just like that, huh? Wouldn't that be great? Yeah.
Mayor, I told this fine police officer and leader that I did have some questions, so.
Okay.
And maybe that's where Doug can come in with the.
Perfect, and then Doug can answers the financial
But
questions.
you don't have to make it long-winded.
I will not make a long.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mayor,
Chad.
Council, I appreciate your time. I do want to note real quick that Chief Captain Schenkel, TAC team leader Roy Miller is back there, Sergeant McCain's back there from our TAC team, and Jason Cantrell's in the building somewhere. If I falter in any way, they're going to shove me out of the way and convince you all to vote yes. I wanted to express to you the reason why we want this Bearcat, what the needs are for it. I'm going to do my best to do it short, to get this moving.
Currently, what we are operating with is an MRAP, and the expectations of the community and expectations of the police department and how we serve our community are not up to par as far as we could be. The MRAP was a great tool. We appreciate the ability to use it in our community. It did reach some political ups and downs as we go along, but it is deficient for what we truly need for the community. We are asking you to purchase the Bearcat for us. In the future plannings, and I'm not on some wood here, let's say some of these items, but if we unfortunately have a school shooting incident, our MRAP capability is deficient. We are looking to save lives, preserve the community as best we can. The Bearcat provides a number of options that we could go through for an hour, but I'm not going to, Darrell, as to how we can better serve the community. If there are specific questions about the Bearcat or why we need to purchase this, I'd love to answer them, but I really want Darrell's yes, so I'm not going to drag this thing out. Does anyone have a question for me? I presented some information to you in your packets earlier.
Thank you.
Mayor, my main is not the need, it's just, it wasn't budgeted for, and I understand there is money available, and I'm just curious where that money came from, and if that's affecting anything as far as in the
Sure.
next fiscal year, budget for the police.
So at the end of fiscal year FY22, the general government and indeed the police came in favorable, or we haven't finished the numbers, but they're coming in favorable to the budget, partly because of underspent capital on other vehicles and partly because of some reduced labor and operating costs. But we ended up with more than sufficient funds to cover this Bearcat through an amendment, pulling forward some of the savings from FY22 without causing any negative impact to how we close the year, nor how we will move into FY23 throughout the course of the year. If you need more details, I can provide them.
Mayor, Doug, so this is not, I mean, they're not being able to hire everyone they wanted to hire as far as
Right.
the police officers, right?
And that's part of the savings.
But next year, I don't want to limit their amount of hiring.
This won't.
This expenditure, okay.
When we spend a capital of value, it's gone once. When we buy for personnel, every year it hits us. So we didn't use some of those personnel costs and some of the benefits costs, and they remain resident in our fund balance and available for use one time.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
And also, Doug, just to confirm, the police department did save about $1 million from last year. So this will pay it completely. It's done, it's gone. The monies will not be returned because we'll have this here, but you'll have more money left for just what Darrell talked about.
My terminology might be different. I wouldn't say exactly save. They underspent, and that was appreciated, and it is sufficient to cover the cost, yes.
And it won't impact our budget, period.
It will be brought forward on March 6th. That's the planned date for the amendment with all other components, but that's when we will actually recognize the funding source for this.
Councilman Bauer.
Yeah, you have an estimate how long you think it will last?
The estimation from the Linco Bearcat Company is 20 years, give or take. They have a repurpose program or repurchasing program that we could venture into that time frame. If you plan on staying on the council, we'll talk about that then. I'll be retired, but this would get us through for a couple decades at minimum.
The other thing that is very positive is, and I appreciate Councilman Reynolds bringing this to my attention, and that is the liability on the MRAP. It was not designed for how we are using it.
No.
And from a risk standpoint, there's a huge liability with that vehicle. And the Bearcat, I think we're going to reduce that liability, which is important.
Yes, ma'am. We've made do with the MRAP, and we appreciate the opportunity to have it because it's a reality in this world. We need that sort of vehicle. But the Bearcat's better suited for what our job expectations are.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor, I'll go ahead. I was going to make a
Madam
motion.
Mayor, I just wanted to add, a friend of mine is a SWAT team commander at Meridian PD, and they have the same MRAP, or they had the same vehicle. They've gotten rid of it. But they had the same kind of steps affixed to the back of it that we do. They were en route to an op, and the stairs broke off of it. And so they left their team kind of in a lurch. But we don't want that to happen for our city. We need to give good tools to our law enforcement to do their job correctly.
And then if any of you have had the opportunity to see the MRAP, you'll notice a couple of ratchet straps tied to our stairs to keep them from bouncing and jostling every time we drive somewhere. So yes, we are making do with what we have. We're asking not to do anymore.
Keep the officers in shape, lightweight, yeah.
Any other discussion?
Don't let Darrell drive.
Yes. Councilman Haverfield.
I had a chance to ride in the MRAP once. I can't remember if it was Lieutenant Randall or Crandall that was driving. Is it Crandall? Randall? Pardon?
Jason
Cantrell,
Cantrell.
sorry.
Yes.
It was SWAT day, and it was hot in the back of that thing. But I was, when we first got it, made the joke about painting it red and letting the fire department have it and put a hose on it. So what will happen with the MRAP? Will it just be parked, or what will happen with it?
That's a very good question. So currently, our operational capacity is limited to the service of one vehicle. And the MRAP is from a military surplus, and it does have a tendency to go down, which means we are days without a vehicle. Now, the tactical response team is a crisis situation. They call when they need us, not when it's convenient. So the plan for the MRAP is a secondary vehicle. We don't anticipate using it every single operation. I will tell you, having been with the department for a number of years now, there are operations where we require to hit 2 targets at the same time. Knocking on wood again, we've never had 2 crisis incidents at 2 locations at the same time, but we do have a purpose for the vehicle, only because we don't have 2 Bearcats. Just,
Oh, man.
I'm reaching here. Y'all look really positive tonight.
So being a proprietary product, are we able to work on this vehicle as far as maintaining it, all right, through our, okay.
So I went through the city shop as well. I talked to Doug Adams via email about this. I put him in touch with Lenco. He sent an email and told me to express his support of this purchase. It will be more cost effective than maintaining the MRAP, even though we're not looking to get rid of the MRAP. And there's obviously a warranty with a new purchase. So fleet's on board with the purchase of the vehicle, and they can maintain it for us.
And we're not going to get a call tomorrow from another vehicle manufacturer saying, why did you do a sole source on this one? Are there other manufacturers out of similar type products?
There are other models out there. However, the sole source requirements, because of the patents that are involved with Lenco Bearcat, meets the sole source needs via legal. So we cover those bases as well. I can't tell you that there aren't other models out there. There are other models out there, but there aren't models that we wish to purchase. There are models that the other agencies in the valley use. We're comfortable with what Bearcat has presented to us as the best option. Going back to my earlier presentation or conversation about we've been making do. Bearcat's top of the line. They have a sole source option, and we're not looking to make do anymore, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I might, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Huff, but the MRAP was given to us, is that correct? And we can't sell it anyway, so having it sitting there for a rainy day is a really good option for us. Hopefully, we never have to get there or use that in our city.
And having 2 vehicles in our community is not an anomaly. Caldwell has 2 vehicles. Ada County's working on their 3rd vehicle. Just the environment we're living in currently. We need crisis abilities, and this is where we're at. So we do plan on keeping both of them.
Thank you.
so
Okay, who
Mayor-
wants to make, are you wanting to make a
Well, I want to
motion?
make one more quick question. So
wanna
so
make a
have you
motion?
seen the manufacturer, or have you guys, you said the MRAP, the bullet penetrated the MRAP. So we have, I know this is supposedly, has somebody actually tested where a bullet
So
is not going to penetrate this?
We tested the vehicle that we used previous to the MRAP. It was a armored vehicle, called an armored vehicle. End of the day, when we got the MRAP, we went ahead and put a bullet through it to see what we've been using for years. That vehicle was not armored protections. We were just told it was.
It was actually a minivan.
Yeah, it was.
Well, it was after the minivan. It was the one in between.
So the MRAP did not penetrate the MRAP. I thought I misread.
We did not fire anything at the MRAP. It's a military vehicle. I'm assuming that they have tested their own products,
Okay.
and I doubt it would last as long as it did if it was not bulletproof, the MRAP itself.
Okay.
Okay, so I think,
I'm-
yes, Councilman
I'll make a
Reynolds.
motion that we approve notice of intent to execute a sole source contract for the purchase of a Bearcat armored vehicle and related equipment from Lenco in the amount of $377,469.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mayor King, I do have one thing. When I worked at the police department, you guys wouldn't let me near the MRAP. Will you let me drive this Bearcat?
touch. You got my
golf
number.
carts
Give me a
over.
call.
Yeah, you got your number all right.
I have more faith in the police department all the time.
We'll talk to ICRIM, talk about insurance purposes.
Well, you could drive a golf cart like Darrell did.
Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner,
Just want to make you nervous.
I'm waiting,
Yes.
I'm waiting.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
Jacob.
Good job.
Thank you. Okay, item 7.4 is an action item. This is to authorize the Family Justice Center to apply for a one-year Edward Byron Memorial Justice Assistant Grant, the BJAG grant, through the Idaho State Police for the Camp Hope program.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 7.5 is a similar action item. This is to authorize the Family Justice Center to apply for a one-year BJAG grant through the Idaho State Police for client services and staff training funds.
So moved. Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 7.6, this is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor to sign the First Amendment to the contract price amendment for the Nampa wastewater treatment plant Phase 2 upgrades, Project Group F Progressive Design Build Agreement with Jacobs in the amount of $4,771,771 to construct the recycled pipeline. I will say, Jeff is here. I don't know if you need him to come forward. His materials are in the
Yeah,
packet.
I mean, this is, I mean, for Councilman Haverfield and myself, this has been discussed and so on, if any of the others, but otherwise I'll make the motion and then there could be discussion that we accept this.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
I do have one question. Was this amendment due to what?
Mayor and Councilman Rodriguez, so when they originally put the contract together for the project, they put a lump sum together for the majority of it in order for speed to market, to get it bid before a lot of the issues with ordering materials and things like that. One area that they did not have was the allowances complete. And so they left that portion under an allowances contract, and now, a year and a half later, we're here to revisit that. They kind of penciled in an amount they thought that that would work then. Now, a year and a half later, there's been many changes in the design, and in your PowerPoint, it shows that we have to micro-tunnel now. There's deeper dewatering issues, deeper bore pits on either side. So now we're presenting to you tonight the revised number for this. And so you're looking at about 6 months worth of work. The DRC did approve it, and we appreciate Councilman Brunner and Haverfield's work on that, the mayor, so.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Any other questions? I do want to say thank you for the work. Jacobs has been excellent. Appreciate this. We've had considerable savings because of the progressive design build and the way we've approached this, and very thankful for how we approached it at the beginning because there's been considerable savings. I think this whole project would have been considerably more if we hadn't done the way, accomplished it the way we did. So thank you so much. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Item 7.7 is an action item. This is to adopt the USTIC corridor study as presented and implement the plan as part of the future corridor and intersection designs and improvements and adopt as an amendment to the Transportation Master Plan.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mayor, I just wanted to point out on bullet 5, mainly for our president, public outreach indicated 70% of the respondents favored roundabouts for this.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes.
I can't speak to everybody else's feelings, only my own.
Just gave him a heart attack, though.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, the surveys are only as good as the people that put them together.
And with that, roll call.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
He's speechless.
Yes.
He doesn't even know where he's at.
Bauer.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in
You lost
favor,
me on
motion
that.
carries.
You lost me on roundabouts, I'm sorry.
Crystal, thank you so much for your work. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you. 7.8 is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor to sign a task order for the attached
No.
scope of work. It's hard to talk at this time, which is Exhibit A with Parametrics to provide design services for the Franklin Boulevard and Carter Road intersection improvements project in the amount of $78,395.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
No.
Brunner.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
Item 7.9 is an action item, and this is to authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding with Northside Logistics Center LLC for the Shannon Drive resurfacing on behalf of the city of Nampa for a reimbursement amount equal to 1/2 of the actual cost, not to exceed $350,000.
So moved.
Second.
I have some questions on this one, Mayor.
Okay. Crystal, are you answering? No, thank you. Caleb?
Thanks, Caleb. So this road is not hardly operable?
You can drive on it, but in terms of pavement health, it's about as low as you can get.
Okay, and so they're wanting to move trucks in. Is there some reason why this movement of trucks doesn't happen if it is able to be driven on? Why put new pavement on it and have these trucks wear and tear on it?
So this is not just a resurfacing, it's a complete rebuild of the road section. So the pavement itself is substandard for an industrial use. The road was built back in, I want to say, late 70s was when it was originally put in.
So they're going to be large trucks all the way, I mean, see, what I was reading, I thought it was more of the front end where they needed to move all these items in and out, but this isn't going to be ongoing then, is that?
This will be ongoing because this developer is developing an industrial site at the end of Shannon Drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just thought if we're going to abuse it further, might as well, but if that's the case, it's going to be ongoing, I understand then. Okay,
Well,
thanks.
my understanding is that Simplot, when they owned, all the sugar beet tailings were back in there. And it really, when they outloaded, they had to move them all. It really did a toll on that road. And I just so appreciate LDK as they're actually the ones developing this. They're developing a very nice industrial park in the back, and they want to make sure the entrance is good, so.
No, I appreciate the sharing, I just
Yeah, the sharing.
didn't want it to cause further abuse if we didn't need it.
It should hopefully, with the new road section, be able to last quite a long time.
Yes.
You said it's a rebuild, not a resurface?
Correct. It's completely hogging out the pavement, the base material, and rebuilding the base up. Yeah.
The motion indicated that's a resurface, not a rebuild, so should that be stated in our motion?
I suppose I would leave that to you. The MOU is pretty clear as to what the scope of work is.
So is it important that the motion actually says rebuild versus resurface, or should it reference as stated in the MOU?
Madam Mayor, the scope is pretty clear, but
If you want to say rebuild?
if you say rebuild, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Perfect. Okay, so,
I made the motion, so I will amend that to say rebuild.
And my second is according to that.
okay. Is there any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez. Brunner.
Can I go back there too? Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Think so, yeah.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Perfect timing.
Item 710 is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding with Hayden Homes Idaho LLC for the Canada Road Culvert Extension resurfacing on behalf of the city for a reimbursement amount based on the actual costs and agreed upon split not to exceed $140,000. This has been approved by legal.
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
711 is an action item, and this is actually the first reading of ordinance amending Title 4, Chapter 12, vacant building registration, Section 1 definitions. And so I don't know, unless there are any questions, we'll read the ordinance, and then we would stand for a motion to request it be passed under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, amending Title 4, Chapter 12, Section 1 of the Nampa City Code pertaining to vacant building registration and maintenance, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
Make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bauer. Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
That concludes our new business portion. We are going to move now to unfinished business, and we do have a number of first reading of ordinances, and each one will be requested to pass under suspension of rules, but I can remind us as we move through. So item 9.1 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 for 2909 East Victory Road.
Sorry, okay. An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 2909 East Victory Road, Nampa, Idaho, parcel number R24674, comprising approximately 1.37 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the limits of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Nampa and be zoned RS 8.5, single-family residential, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the City of Nampa, determining that said annexation and zoning are in the best interest of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Nampa and to designate said property as RS 8.5 single-family residential on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for recordation, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance and the map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
Make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
Excuse me, is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez. Yes. Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 9.2 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to limited multifamily zoning district at 1112 Southside Boulevard.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 1112 Southside Boulevard, Nampa, Idaho, County Parcel R221660, comprising approximately 0.56 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the limits of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Nampa and be zoned RML Limited Multiple Family, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the City of Nampa, determining that said annexation and zoning are in the best interest of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, directing the city engineer and the planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Nampa and to designate said property as RML Limited Multiple Family on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for recordation, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance of the map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
Make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 9.3 on the agenda is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to RS 7 and a subdivision preliminary plat for La Pomona Blanca subdivision at 87 South Happy Valley Road.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 87 South Happy Valley Road, Nampa, Idaho, parcel number R247090128, comprising approximately 2.39 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the limits of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Nampa and be zoned RS7 Single Family Residential, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the City of Nampa, determining that said annexation and zoning are in the best interest of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, directing the city engineer and the planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Nampa and to designate said property as zoned RS7 Single Family Residential on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for recordation, subject to the terms of that certain development agreement between the applicant and the city, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance and the map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
So moved under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
Ingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 9.4 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for the vacation of a portion of the public easement for water at the big storied site at 504 Caldwell Boulevard.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, vacating a 97.29 by 1.4 by 97.30 by 1.4 portion of the public utility easement for water on the property commonly known as 504 Caldwell Boulevard, County Parcel R31310, in the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 16, Township 3 North, Range 2 West, Boise Meridian, more particularly described below in Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, and directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map and other applicable maps accordingly, providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith.
So moved under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 9.5 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to light industrial for 16763 Madison Road.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 16763 Madison Road, Nampa, Idaho, County Parcel R31048, comprising approximately 3 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the limits of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Nampa and be zoned IL Light Industrial, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the City of Nampa, determining that said annexation and zoning are in the best interest of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, directing the city engineer and the planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Nampa and to designate said property as IL Light Industrial on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for recordation, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance and the map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
Make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
Ingula.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield. All in favor, motion carries.
That concludes our regular agenda this evening. I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74206-1F. This is to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of or legal options for pending litigation controversies or controversies not yet being litigated, but imminently likely to be litigated.
Madam Mayor, I will make that motion, but before we do that, can we wish Randy a happy birthday?
It was yesterday.
Oh, my goodness, I
Is this in the-
forgot.
the next one?
Oh, I really would like Darrell and Victor to sing.
Happy, start it, there you
All
go.
right.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Randy. Happy birthday to you.
That's kind of like.
Everybody has to endure it. Good for you, Dale. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
2 months, he's my age now.
Oh.
He said he's 50, so I don't know.
There you go. Okay, so I think we had a motion.
Second.
And it's a second. Roll call.
Rodriguez. Brunner. Everfield.
Yes.
Bauer. Jingulo.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in